Hello everyone, welcome to Education on Cloud. I'm Hemalata. Today we are going to discuss a subject Business Studies for Class 12. So in today's class we are going to have a quick revision classes, and in this quick revision class we are going to discuss only about the important notes that has to be practiced from the examination point of view, right? And the subject, as I've told you already, it's going to be about Business Studies for Class 12. And here we are going to discuss about part A, that is principles and functions of management. So under this we are going to discuss about chapter number 1, that is about nature and significance of management. So it's only about nature and significance of management chapter, and we'll be having a quick revision class about only the important questions that is required from your examination point of view, right? The first concept that we have to understand is that about introduction to management. So this is a basic information that we have to know related to management. So when we have to discuss or understand about the concept called management, what are the things that we have to remember is that management can be considered as a process. So management is considered as what? A process. This process includes certain steps. Okay, this process includes certain contents. So the process starts like planning, organizing, staffing, directing and controlling. What they are planning? See, first they have to plan for your organization. After that you have to organize, then staffing, then directing and controlling the resources of an enterprise efficiently and effectively for achieving the organizational goal. So this is the meaning of management that we have to understand. So therefore management is what? It's a process of planning, organizing, staffing, directing and controlling the resources of the enterprise effectively and efficiently with the purpose of achieving what? Organizational goal is what we have to understand. Fine. And next, effectiveness versus efficiency. So when we talk about effectiveness versus efficiency, here is the information that we have to quickly revise it. So effectiveness in management is concerned with what? Doing the right task. So effectiveness is nothing but doing the right task without any error or without any mistake, and along with that completing activities along with what? Achieving goals without considering the cost involved. So we have to achieve whatever the goal, okay, without considering that is, it means that irrespective of the expenses or the cost which is included. Fine. In other words, we can also understand that effectiveness, it is concerned with the end result, whereas efficiency means what? Doing the task correctly and with minimum cost. So efficiency is nothing but performing the task and with in a proper manner, or what we call it as correctly, and with a minimum cost is what we call it as efficiency. So here you got the difference between effectiveness and efficiency. Fine. So effectiveness is what? Completing the task, given goal. Okay. Efficiency is what? Doing the task in a correct manner. So this is the two concepts that we have to understand here. Fine. And next, it's about characteristics of management we have to understand, and we have already learned about the meaning of management, taking that it's a process. Now we have to understand about characteristics of a management. So when we have to understand about the characteristics of the management, the first characters will be it's going to be considered as goal oriented process. Okay, whenever we have to achieve particular goal, we have to plan, organize, right, coordinate, direct, control. All these things is required because we have to achieve a particular goal in the organization. In order to achieve the organization, we take a support of management, and that's why management is what we call it as process. Fine. So here we can understand that it's going to be goal oriented process. Therefore, management integrates the effort of different individuals in order to achieve organizational goals. Fine. And along with that, we also consider management as a dynamic. Why do we consider management as a dynamic? Is that management has to adapt itself and along with its goals according to the changing needs of the business environment. So if it is not dynamic, then it cannot meet the changing needs of the environment. In order to meet the changing needs of the environment in a business field, so therefore they say that management should be dynamic. How, when we can say it's going to be dynamic? When it is in a situation to adapt itself and its goal according to the changing needs of the business environment. Fine. And the next point is, the next characteristics is about intangible. Okay, management cannot be seen, but its presence can be felt in the way an organization function. Fine. Then intangible, under that management cannot be seen, but as we have already discussed, its presence can be felt in the way in an organization function. The next characteristics is that we can also consider management as what? A group activity. Okay, because diverse members of management, they are going to work together towards what? Fulfilling the common organizational goal. So in order to, they have certain goal in an organization. To achieve the goal, a group of people are going to work together. Okay, so that's what we call it as group activity. Okay, and all pervasive. So managerial activities are performed in all types of organizations, across all departments and at all the levels of management. Fine, you can also understand here that management can also be considered as what? Pervasive. Pervasive means where it is applicable in all the areas. So that's why we can see here it's going to be considered as what? Managerial activities, since managerial activity is performed in all types of organizations across all the departments. Wherever you see, without management, none of the work can be performed. So that's the reason management is required, or that process is required in each and every department, in each and every organization. That's why they say it's going to be pervasive. Fine. Then the next characteristics is that we also call management as what? Multidimensional. Okay, because it has three dimensions. The three dimensions are management of work, people and operations. What are the three dimensions of management? We can understand that we call it as multidimensional because it has got three dimensions. One is management, the other one is work, people and operations. Fine. And next is that we also say management as a continuous process, because it includes certain steps like planning, organizing, coordinating, directing, controlling. So this process has to be done in a continuous manner. That is why they say management should cope up with what? Continuous process. So let's understand about this. The process of management consists of a series of continuous, composite but separate functions. What are those functions? Planning, organizing, directing, staffing and controlling. Fine. These are what we call it as a separate functions which has been included in a management. Fine. Then, so let's understand about the next concept called objectives of management. So let's discuss about this. The first main objective of the management is about social objective. So the management has got certain objective. We know that a group of, we also call it as group activity because a bunch of people will be working together with a common objective. In that case, we also consider this as a social objective. So to create economic value consistently for various constituents of a society, since this is the reason that we call it as social objective. And we also have an objective of organizational. We also try to fulfill the organizational objective. So utilizing human and material resources to maximum possible advantage, which is to fulfill economic objectives of a business, that is survival, profit and growth. So here you can understand organizational objectives. So utilizing the human and material resources to the maximum possible advantage, which is to fulfill the economic objectives of a business in order to survive and in order to make a profit and also to have an expansion or what we call it as growth. So by fulfilling all these things, we are focusing also on what? Achieving the organizational objectives. Fine. Then the next objective is that personal objective. So what does it consist when we talk about personal objective is that we can say that reconcile personal goals with organizational objectives so as to maintain harmony in the organization. Fine. So here we can see we can also have a connection between our personal goals along with the organizational goal, and that's the reason they say reconcile personal goals along with the organizational objective. The reason is to maintain harmony in the organization. Fine. Then the next important concept is about importance of management. So we have discussed about the objectives, we have discussed about the characteristics, we have also come across with the meaning of management. Now the next concept is about importance of management. We should also understand why we have to study management. There is some importance, that's the reason we are studying about the management. So let's discuss about the importance of management. Fine, here you can see it helps in achieving group goals. So that is the reason, that is the importance of management. So group goals can be achieved, right? Gives a common direction to diverse individual efforts. So that's the reason we say it as helps in achieving group goals, because it focuses on what? Gives a common direction to diverse individual efforts. Fine. And next, increases efficiency. Increases efficiency means what? Reduces cost and increases productivity. Fine. And creates a dynamic organization. This also management is also important because it creates a dynamic organization in a way that it helps people to adjust with the changing environment. Fine. Next, helps in achieving personal objectives too, as we have learned in characteristics. So management helps individuals to achieve personal goals along with the overall organizational goals, right? And the next importance is that management also helps in the development of the society. Fine, because it provides good quality products, generates employment, etc. Fine. Then important terms to remember. So let's discuss about this. The first term is management of work. So management translates work in terms of goals to be achieved and assigns the means to achieve it. Fine. Next is about management of people. So here you can understand the task of management is to make people work towards achieving the organizational goals. Right. You can also understand here that the management of people means what? The task of management is to make people work towards what? Achieving the organizational goals. In what way? In order to, by making their strengths effective and their weaknesses irrelevant. Fine. That is how we have to make them strong. Next is management of operations. This requires a production process which entails the flow of input material and the technology for transforming this input into desired output for consumption. So here management of operation. Okay, what we have to understand here is that this is going to require a production process. Okay, which entails the flow of input material and the technology for transforming this input into the desired output for consumption. Fine. Next, the important facts to remember with this concept is that management is 10% work and 90% people. It involves always with 10% of the work and 90% of the people. Fine. Then the next concept is about the nature of management. So let's understand about the nature of management here. The first thing is that management as an art. So in what way it's going to be, we have to discuss. Art is the skillful and personal application of existing knowledge to achieve desired results. So we say art is what? The skill of the person. Okay, and personal application. You should have a skill and you should be having a application mind of existing knowledge to achieve desired results. Right? It can be acquired through study, observation and experience. Since art is concerned with personal application of knowledge, some kind of ingenuity and creativity is required to practice the basic principles learnt. Fine. Then features of art. So you can understand that it's going to be personalized application. The first feature of artist because it depends on the skill and innovative or creativity. So this can be applied by a person. That's why we call it as personalized application. Fine. Next is it's based on practice and creativity. So always this art is nothing but the practice or the creativity that a person is having. Depending upon that, it's going to be applied. And next, it also depends on what the next feature is, that existence of the theoretical knowledge. So they should have a theoretical knowledge in order to make it practically applicable. Fine. Then management is an art as it satisfies all the features for being an art. Fine. Next. Management as a science. Let's discuss about this. Science is a systematized body of knowledge that explains certain general truths or the operation of general laws. Right, you can understand here management as a science is what we call, why do we call it as science, is that it follows a systematic process. That's why we call it a systematized body of knowledge, and this will explain certain general truths or the operation of general laws. Fine. Then features of science. So let's discuss about this. The features are like this. We call science as what? Systematized body of knowledge, because it is a systematic process. However we wish, we cannot do it. So a systematic process should be applied. That is why we call it as a science, right? And next is principle based on experiments. So whatever the principles that you are applying, all those principles should be based on the experiments. Fine. And next, universal validity. So whatever you apply, it is universally accepted. That's why we call it as universal validity. Fine. Therefore, management is an inexact science as its principles have to be modified according to a given situation. Fine. Then it is a social science as it also deals with human beings. Fine. Now, let's discuss about management as a profession. So what are the features of a profession is that profession, we call it as a occupation which is regulated by a legally recognized body and requires a specific and formal qualification. We know that we ask a person's occupation, or what we call it as profession, okay, and what does it fulfills is that this occupation will be regulated by a legally recognized body, and it also requires a specific and formal qualification. Only those will be considered as a profession. Okay, entry is limited in case of profession. So let's discuss about this. A well-defined body of knowledge is required firstly, and professional association is required. Then restricted entry should be there. Then ethical code of conduct is also important. Fine. Then management is on the path of becoming a profession but not a full-fledged profession. So we can say management is only in the path of becoming a profession, but we cannot consider management as but not a fully fledged profession. We cannot consider as fully 100%. Okay, management is a well-defined body of knowledge, but all other features are desirable but not compulsory for a manager. Right? Next concept is that we have to discuss about levels and functions of management. So here you can understand levels of management means what? Different categories of managers. So we can understand levels of management means what? Different categories of managers, right? The lowest to the highest on the basis of their responsibilities, authority and status. Fine. Then levels of management. So under this, let's discuss about the different levels of management. So as we all know, we have got top level management, middle level management and lower level management. So first let us discuss about top level management. Who are the people who will be involving with the top level management? So when we have to understand about top level management, here we can see this consists of board of directors, right? BOD, board of directors. Then it also consists of a chairman along with managing director, chief executives, etc. So all these people can be considered as people who belong to what? Top level management. These top level managers are responsible for the welfare and survival of the organization, because they'll be the important decision makers of the organization. Fine. They analyze the business environment and its implications for the survival of the firm. They formulate overall organizational goals and strategies for their achievement. Fine. Next, levels of management means different categories of managers, as we have learned. The lowest to the highest on the basis of their responsibilities, authorities and status. So based on what we have categorized into top level management, middle level management and lower level management, is that we have to understand that this categorization has been done based on the responsibilities, authority and status. Based on these three things, we categorize management into three types. That is, top level management will be having very risk and the responsibility will be more, right? The status will be more. Middle level management comparing to the top level management little bit less, and even when you compare with the lower level management, the responsibility, the status will be little bit less. So here you can identify in this diagram that the top level management includes board of director, chairperson, president, etc. Okay, so all the important positions will be pushed to top level management. And people who comes under middle level management is that here you can see purchase manager, production manager, finance manager, a plant superintendent, etc. So all these designations or positions will be considered as a middle level management. And who comes under the lower level management is that like supervisor, superintendent, foreman, section officer. So all these people will be considered as what? Lower level management. Fine. Then, so let's discuss about the middle level management. So middle level management consists of what? Departmental heads. So each department heads will be coming under the category of middle level management. Example, you can see finance manager, production manager, etc. So middle management is the link between top level and lower level managers. They are subordinate to top managers and superior to the first line managers. Fine. Then, lower or supervisory, or we also call them as operational level management. Here you can say this consists of foreman, supervisor, superintendents, etc. Lower level managers are going to directly oversee the efforts of the more force. Their authority and responsibility is limited according to the plans management, right? And next, so let's discuss about the functions of management. So all the concept that we are discussing is very important. So this is the next concept that we have to understand. So here we have functions of management. So when we talk about functions, we have already discussed in the meaning also that we just have to understand about planning, organizing, directing, controlling, all these things. Okay. So let's start with a concept called planning. So when do we call, or what is the meaning of planning, is that we say planning is the function of deciding in advance. What you have to decide in advance, what to do further, right? That's what we call it as planning. And without planning, none of the business can be executed in a proper manner. That's the reason we say planning is a function of deciding in advance what to do, when to do, how to do, and who should do it. So this should be this planning should give answer for all these questions. Only then we can say that it's a proper planning. Fine. And when we have to discuss about organizing, we can understand that organizing is the management function. Organizing is what? It comes under management function of assigning duties, grouping tasks, establishing authority, and allocating resources required to carry out a specific plan. Fine. Next, staffing. This function is concerned with finding the right person for the right job. Staffing is what? You have to, whenever there is a vacancy for the positions, so this staffing is concerned with finding the right person for the right position at the right time, is what we call it as staffing. Next is about directing. We have to understand directing is what? It's a process of supervising, motivating, leading and communicating with the subordinates to achieve the organizational objectives, is what we call it as directing. Fine. And the next function is about controlling. So when we have this planning, organizing, staffing, definitely we should also go with directing. Fine. And after we give a directions, the final step is about controlling. So let's discuss about controlling. The task of controlling involves establishing standards of performance, measuring current performance, comparing it with the established standards, and taking corrective actions. If there is any significant deviation between actual and planned performance, then it is to be found. Fine. Then the important terms that we have to remember here is that board of directors, because they come under top level management. So the governing body elected by a group of individuals that represent shareholders, or what we call it as board of directors. Next is about foreman, a trained worker who is person in charge of a group of workers will be considered as a foreman. Next is hierarchy, a system ranking the members according to relative status or authority is what we call it as hierarchy. Fine. Then important fact to remember about this concept is that planning is about preparing for the future, not predicting it. So when we are talking about planning, planning is what? Preparing for the future. We are not going to predict it. Okay. Then let's discuss about coordination. So coordination, what is the meaning of coordination here? Let's understand. We say coordination is a process by which a manager synchronizes the activities of different departments to achieve the common organizational goals, right? It is a force that binds all the other functions of management. Fine. Then nature or feature of coordination. So under this we can understand all pervasive, integrates group efforts. Fine. Continuous process. It is also going to ensure unity of action, responsibility of all managers, and it also deliberate function. So these are what we call it as natures or features of coordination. So we know that coordination is very important in an organization. So let's discuss about the importance of coordination. So it's going to be functional differentiation. So under this is going to ensure unity of action among different departments which have independent functioning by linking their activities. Fine. And next is growth in size. Fine. Here you can understand it integrates individual goals with organizational goals to achieve the organizational efficiency as organizations growth in size. And next is specialization. So here you can understand this coordination also focuses on integrates efforts of various specialists in the organization which avoids conflict. When there is a good coordination, the conflicts can be avoided. Fine. Then coordination is the essence of management. So under this, needed in all the management functions. So the first one is that planning, second one is organizing, then staffing, directing and controlling. So in a quick, let's revise it. So planning is what? Coordination between organizational plan and departmental plan. If there is a coordination between these two things, then obviously everything will be fine. Then organizing is what? Organizing is required between authority, responsibility and accountability. Fine. Then staffing is to what? Staffing is to balance between job requirement and qualities of personnel. So balancing these two things is what we call it as staffing. Right. Then directing is what? Directing is required for the purpose of supervision, motivation and leadership. So these are the purpose that why do we need this directing. Fine. And the last one is about controlling. Controlling ensures what? The result conform to expected result. Fine. So these are the functions that is required. Fine. Next, needed at all levels of management. So under that, the top level we have to understand here, coordination to integrate activities of the organization for accomplishing the organizational goals. Next, middle level is what? Coordination of the effort of different sections and subsections. And about lower level we can understand it's about the coordination of the activities of workers to ensure the progress of the work, because this is a basic thing in an organization. If the workers are working properly, the organization's goal can be achieved. Fine. Then important terms to remember here is that we can understand the first thing is that specialization. Okay, particular area in which a person concentrates and gains expertise. Fine. And the next is functional differentiation. Under this, you can understand division of work and subdivision of the organization on the basis of work or function. That is what we call it as departmentalization. So again, departmentalization is what each department will be having head, and they'll be taking care of all the operational activities of the particular department. So that is the reason that division of work is also important, and this division of work is what we call it as decentralization, or what we call it as departmentalization. So by this we are going to conclude today's class. Thank you all.